Today I'm going to do some factoring of trinomials. Some will have a lead coefficient and some will not. So the first one I have, x squared minus 11x plus 24, is a trinomial with no lead coefficient. So because there is no lead coefficient, I'm going to go ahead and put my parentheses. And then because it's an x squared, I will put an x and an x here. And then I'm going to factor 24, my last term. So I have 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, and 4 times 6. With each set of factors, I'm going to add the factors together, and I'll also find the difference between the two, so I'll subtract. So 24 minus 1 is 23, 12 plus 2, 12 minus 2, 8 plus 3, 8 minus 3, 6 plus 4, and 6 minus 4. And by doing this, I can easily find my middle term. Here it is. And I created that 11 by using the 3 and the 8. So those are my numbers that I'm going to be putting into my parentheses. And the 11 was in the plus column, and so that means my signs are going to be the same. So I look at the sign of my middle term. Whatever that sign is, if they're going to be the same, then they're both going to be that sign. And there's my answer. So let's do another one. Number 2, we have x squared minus 5x and minus 36. Again, a trinomial, no lead. So again, I can put my parentheses. Again, I'll be putting x's in the first spot for each parentheses. And then again, I'm going to factor my last term. So I will have 1 times 36. 2 times 18, 3 times 12, 4 times 9, and 6 times 6. Again, I'm going to add each set of factors and subtract, and then add and subtract, add and subtract, add, subtract, add and subtract. Okay, again, remember we are looking for my middle term of 5. I found it right here. I created that 5 by using 4 and 9. So I will be putting those two numbers here. And the 5 was in the minus column, which tells me my signs that I'm going to put in my parentheses over there are going to be different. So again, I look at this sign right here. If these are going to be different, then whatever this sign is goes with the larger of these two numbers. So my 9 gets the negative, and my 4 will get the positive. And there's my answer. Okay, let's try another one, number 3. But this time, let's go ahead and have a lead coefficient. So 3x squared plus 7x minus 6. So because I have a lead coefficient, I'm not going to go straight to my parentheses. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my trinomial into 4 terms so I can do grouping. So I'm going to bring my first term down, and I'll bring my last term down. And I'm going to turn this 7x into 2 terms right here. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to take my lead coefficient and I'm going to multiply it with my last term. And I'm going to factor that number. So I have 1 times 18 and 2 times 9 and 3 times 6. Again, same process. I'm going to add my factors together and I will subtract. And I will add and I will subtract and add and subtract. Again, I am still looking for my middle term. So here's my middle term. I created that middle term by using the 2 and the 9. So I'm putting a 2x and a 9x right here. Remember, these two terms are creating this middle term. And the 7 was in the minus column. So again, my signs were going to be different. Again, I look at this sign. Whatever this sign is goes to the larger of the two numbers. So my 9x gets the positive and my 2 gets the negative. And now that I have it into 4 terms, I can do grouping. So I will group the first 2 together and I will group the second 2. And then I will just factor out what's common out of each of them. So in the first one, I can factor out an x, and that will leave me 3x minus 2. In the second one, it looks like I can factor out a 3, and that will leave me 3x minus 2. So if you will notice that the factors in the parentheses came out to be the same, right? So therefore we can factor out the quantity 3x minus 2. And then the monomials that are left right here, I can put together and I will have x plus 3. Okay, let's try another one of those. So number 4, we have 6x squared plus x minus 2. Again, trinomial with a lead. So I'll bring my first term down. I will bring my last term down. I will multiply the numbers from those two terms, and I'll get 12. And I will factor 12. So 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. Again, I will add and subtract each set of factors. And again, I am looking for my middle term. In this case, it's going to be the 1. And I created that 1 by using 3 and 4. So I will put 3x and 4x. Again, the 1 is in the minus column, which tells me my signs are going to be different. Again, I look at this sign right here. This will go with the larger of the two terms, so my x gets the positive and my 3 gets the negative. And again, I have 4 terms now, so I can try grouping. Group the first 2, group the second 2. So what's common in the first set of parentheses, it looks like I can factor out a 3 and an x, and that will leave me 2x minus 1. What's common in the second one, looks like I can factor out a 2, and that will leave me 2x minus 1. Again, if you'll notice that I have the same factor in both of these, so I can factor out the quantity 2x minus 1. And then my monomials that are left, I have a 3x and a plus 2, and I can put that as the quantity 3x plus 2. And there would be my final answer. Okay, let's try one more. Number 5. We will have 12x squared minus 29x plus 15. So again, we are going to turn this trinomial into 4 terms. Bring down the first term, bring down this last term, and then I'm going to multiply 12 times 15, and that gets me 180. So I'm going to factor 180. So I have 1 times 180, 2 times 90, 3 times 60, 4 times 45, 5 times 36, 6 times 30, 9 times 20, 10 times 18, and 12 times 15. So again, I'm adding each set of factors and subtracting, adding and subtracting, add, subtract, add, subtract, add, subtract, add, subtract, add and subtract, add and subtract, and add and subtract. Okay, again, I'm looking for my middle term, 29. I found it right here. I created that by using 9 and 20, so I will put 9x and 20x. The 29 was in the plus column, so that tells me my signs are going to be the same. Again, I look right here at that sign for my middle term. If they're going to be the same, they're both going to be negative. Okay, and now I can group. And when I start to group here, I have a negative sign. Make sure that negative sign stays with the 20x. So in other words, it needs to go inside the parentheses, and then I'll put a plus in between. And then I can start factoring. So it looks like I can factor out a 3 and an x in the first set of parentheses, which will leave me 4x minus 3. In the second set, I can factor out a 5, but because this is a negative, I'll factor out a negative 5, which again will leave me 4x and then minus 3. So again, the factor is the same, the 4x minus 3 and the 4x minus 3. So we will factor out the quantity 4x minus 3. And then the monomials that are left, I have a 3x and a minus 5, so I will put those together and have 3x minus 5 in my second parentheses, and there would be my answer.